Hey, welcome back, and thank you for allowing me into your internets. I finished my Idols of Torment scatter terrain, so I'm going to walk you through some of this and then also do a quick tutorial on how to deface an angel so that you can fracture your soul. So let's do some quick ASMR to get started. Once those are broken, I go ahead and put them in a position that I think looks believable and then create a base for them. I map out where everything's going to go and then glue it in place. I was feeling a bit lazy when I was making these, so I wanted to try out a new technique for the basing, and for that I used some air dry clay, which I just smushed into some rocks and some sand, and then put some other rocks on top of it. This was really nice to do because it was extremely fast. To paint these, I started out with a dry brush, then I moved on to an airbrush, which I immediately regretted. Then I decided to use a white wash, or as I like to call it, the Disney Special. For the ground, I use a brown wash, a dry brush, and then some pigment powder to tie it all together. I also take some of the brown wash on a paintbrush and flick that. That really helps to tie it all together with a more natural looking splatter look than just painting it on. I needed to tie together the pieces that I made last week because as I was making these, I made them much more grimy. So I just went through and I added that to everything that I had made previously, just using a little bit of plaster and a little bit of brown wash and a little bit of a green wash. With no plan and plenty of leftover foam that I cut into weird shapes, I went ahead and started cutting. Then I laid some bricks. After that was done, the shapes started to make a little bit more sense together. I wanted to make this look sort of like a mausoleum that could also be taken apart so that it could also double as a set of halls. I did a 1-inch spacing between each of the pillars so that I could put miniatures in between. So that way, if I was using it as halls or as a mausoleum, I could make the miniatures come to life, which I thought would be a really cool interactive bit of terrain, especially if the players hadn't seen it before, just kind of encountering this mausoleum where they're trying to get in and go downstairs, and then all of a sudden all of the suits of armor or whatever sentries that are around it just come to life and come out. For this to work, I needed to have it magnetized, and I needed to have the magnets placed strategically. So the best place I came up with was on the doors, so that the doors could be fully removed, and that way the pieces would be able to come apart. I painted this with the same technique, first starting with an airbrush, then a dry brush, then the white wash. At this point, I'm expecting to get a phone call from Disney or Hollywood any day offering me a job because of all the whitewashing I've been doing. For the last piece, I found this cursed-looking angel at Goodwill that had a broken wing. She was for sale for $3, so I decided, hey, let's take her home and give her a brand new life that she'll surely love. The best thing to do when working with a piece like this is to start out by giving it a fully black prime. That way you can have almost a blank canvas to start working with. So after that's done, just start hacking away with reckless abandon. Pieces will end up breaking off that you didn't originally intend to, but you can put it all back together again, and that actually sells the look a lot more. The inspiration from having this angel with its face chiseled off actually came from the Rhaenyra Revelations. There's a lot of really good writing that depicts a bunch of statues with their face chiseled off in order to obscure the details of who the person actually was or what they actually were.
She's the guardian of brides.
Once I was done with the chisel and hammer work, I took all the pieces and dry fitted them back together. What I noticed was the spots where it had broken off were very clean breaks, so I went ahead and I filed them down so that it looked like parts were actually cracking off or falling off, and I made sure that as I was filing them down, I fit them back together so the cracks actually lined up. If you have two separate pieces and you file down on one edge and you don't line it up on the other, it looks really weird. I once again made a base for this and mapped everything out. I wanted to leave a space between the base pieces that were broken so that it looks like it had come apart over time. And then I went ahead and used a mixture of plaster, sand, and rocks to go ahead and start to make the kind of grimy, mucky look. And I wanted some of that to go up onto the statue so that it looked like it has just been weathered and beaten down over time. A black base Mod Podge to secure the sand and stone in place, and then a dry brush. Then I moved on to painting the flowers. I used speed paints for all of the flowers, and the technique that I used was picking out all of the similar flowers and using the same color for each flower. While I didn't use the correct colors for each of the flowers, as long as all of the colors are the same for each individual flower, then you can sell the look. I tied the flowers together with a little bit of a brown wash and then a slate gray pigment powder. This gives the illusion of either dried flowers or moldy flowers. For the base, I started out with just a brown wash, and then after that, I started to add in some pigment powders. Often when I'm working through a piece, I think it looks terrible as I'm going through, so I just keep adding and adding and adding. And I think that's why I'm a terrain maker instead of a miniature painter, because that same methodology does not work on minis at all. So you can see I made a barbed wire cage around the face. After fixing this in place, I continued to work on the piece, and the more I looked at it, the more I hated it. So I went ahead and ripped it off, and then I created some actual barbed wire using the same piece of wire. I actually did this detail 3 total times. I think it's really important if you have a detail that you don't like, especially on a piece of terrain, to just rip it off and start over and do it again. Make it look the way you want. When it's a major detail that the eye is going to be drawn to, if you feel it needs to be redone, just do it. Also, side note here, if you're going to burn super glue, do it outside and wear a respirator. If you inhale this stuff, it is going to be painful for a while. I mean, that's just what I heard. Anyways, finishing up, I used a rust effect paint on the barbed wire cage along with a dark brown wash. But I also wanted to make sure that I left the natural charring that came from burning the glue on there as well. When you can have something that's actually natural, it looks the best. I wanted to add the detail of a skeleton hanging from the flowers, but as soon as I put it on, the scale wasn't right. It immediately made the sculpture feel much smaller scale-wise. So I opted for using Citadel skulls. I just spray paint these on the sprue and then dip them with Pallid Bone speed paint, and they look great. And that last detail wrapped it up, so it's on to the glamour shots. This piece in particular is something that I'm extremely proud of. Now, I don't know if my parents would be proud of me for chiseling the face off of an angel, so Mom, Dad, if you're out there, let me know if you're proud in the comments below. But really, this piece brought me back to making actual art. A lot of the times I feel like my terrain is just terrain, and I feel like this has crossed a border of that for me, and I used to do a lot of art previously, so it's been really good to get back to making something that I can truly genuinely feel proud of.
Anyways, be sure to like and subscribe, drop a comment for the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.